Welcome to a new week here on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Micciche, co-owner of True North Retirement Advisors, a fee-only fiduciary financial advisory practice managing over $400 million in client assets. This week's theme is year-end tax planning tips with Sean Mullaney. He's the FI tax guy, FI. FI, if you haven't heard of FI or FI, it stands for Financial Independence. I actually met Sean at FinCon, which is a conference for financial content creators. So bloggers, YouTubers, podcasters, all in the financial space. And I actually ended up sitting next to Sean and we just started talking about what we did. I didn't know him prior to the conference and I really enjoyed my initial conversation with him. And so I was like, hey, do you want to come back and let's sit down and record an interview for the podcast? So that's what we're doing in this week's episodes. I had a lot of fun. He has an interesting background because he's a financial advisor like myself, but he had a prior career working in the tax world and even for the IRS. So he kind of has that intersection of the financial aspect of it and financial planning, but also with tax. So hopefully you'll enjoy his insights. I really enjoyed my conversation with him. We really focused on what you want to consider to set yourself up for a really strong position as we approach the year-end 2024 tax deadlines. There's lots of things that where if you don't do it by the calendar year end, you're running out of time. So it's a great time to really, you have a few weeks left. You're not completely out of time, but with the holidays coming up, it's good to focus on this in early to mid-November before you get too distracted by other things. So I really enjoyed my interview with Sean this week. I hope you'll enjoy the conversation as well. Just a quick disclaimer. This conversation, this interview is intended to be for general education purposes. It is not tax, legal, or investment advice. I and the Retirement Quick Tips podcast do not endorse Sean Mullaney, Mullaney Financial and Tax Inc., and their services. All right, so without further ado, here's a brief introduction to Sean before we dive into the meat of what we talk about this week. Today, I'm here with Sean Mullaney, and we are recording and talking about year-end tax planning tips. So Sean is the FI tax guy. And he has a YouTube channel. He has a blog. You can check him out, fitaxguy.com. A lot of great content there. And so today with his tax background and the intersection of that with FI or financial independence, we're talking about what you should know and what you should be thinking about as we near the end of the year. We're publishing this episode and this week's episodes a couple months, basically like 6 weeks probably until the end of the year. So we're running out of time. There's a lot of things that you want to keep in mind about what to do for the end of the year, how to make sure that you don't miss any year-end deadlines, which are crucial when it comes to tax planning. So, Sean, it's great to be here with you, and I'm so glad you're joining me.
Ashley, thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
So why don't you tell listeners just a little bit more about who you are and kind of your background and how you got to where you are right now?
I'm Sean Mullaney. I'm a financial planner based in Los Angeles, California. As part of my financial planning practice, I have two content creation outlets. One is fitaxguy.com. It's a blog about the intersection of tax and financial independence. And the second one's a small YouTube channel, Sean Mullaney Videos. And I like to say I'm a tax-focused financial planner, and that comes mostly from my own background. I was an accounting major in college. I spent my first career in corporate tax. I worked for PwC, the IRS, but I always had sort of in the background an interest in personal finance. And so at age 40, I scratched the itch and I opened my own financial planning firm. And I've been doing that for 5.5 years now. And I like to say I tend to be a tax-focused financial planner. So I just have a natural interest in the subject, and a lot of the content I create is very much dedicated to tax, retirement, and financial independence.
I love that. There's always an intersection with tax and investment decisions, and having that background is so valuable.